Kevin Rudd, who was finally made to face President Donald Trump during the Prime Minister's visit to the US. During a tense White House clash, the President demanded Rudd apologise for disparaging remarks he made about him after his first term, labelling him the most destructive president in history and as a traitor to the West in a series of social media posts. Now have a look at Rudd squirm while Anthony Albanese laughs at him.
There's been concern in Australia that it's taken 9 months to get this meeting. Have you had any concerns with this administration, with the stance on Palestine, climate change, or even things the ambassador said about you in the past, the Australian ambassador?
I don't know anything about him. I mean, if he said bad, then maybe he'll like to apologize. I really don't know. Did an ambassador say something bad about him? Don't tell me. I don't. Where is he? Is he still working for you?
Yeah.
You said bad?
Before I took this position, Mr. President.
I don't like you either. I don't, and I probably never will.
Oh, it was delicious, wasn't it? Joining me now for more on this is former Victorian Liberal Party President Michael Kroger and Menzies Research Centre Senior Fellow Nick Cater. Hi to both of you. Thanks so much for your time this evening. Michael, over to you first. What do you make of this scolding?
Well, it just shows you, Nika, even though the meeting went well in terms of, the trade deals Australia got out of it, which is great for our country, it's another reason why Rudd should not be the ambassador. Susan Lee, the Liberal Party leader's called on him to go. She's absolutely right. I mean, who wants their country embarrassed by the rogue comments of our ambassador before he became the ambassador? He made some stupid comments. He also referred to Trump as a village idiot. Seriously, and then he was made ambassador. So it was embarrassing for Australia, embarrassing for our country, our national interest, embarrassing around the world. These pictures have gone all around the world. So a good day for Australia in one sense, but a very bad day in another sense. Another reason why Kevin Rudd shouldn't be reappointed when he comes up for reappointment.
Well, you're right. I mean, he's been the elephant in the room this whole time, Nick. He's still the elephant in the room, but the elephant in the room had to be addressed today. Do you think his role as ambassador can seriously continue?
Well, I think Kevin Rudd was obviously right when he said that Donald Trump was a destructive president. I mean, he certainly should have destroyed Kevin Rudd's career after that
exactly.
one. Look, when your ambassador is the topic of conversation at a high-level meeting, it is not a good day for Australia. When your ambassador is a joke, when everybody in the room is laughing at him, when he's the laughing stock in the entire room, then it's a terrible day. If Kevin Rudd had any ability to be embarrassed, he would be resigning right now. I suspect he doesn't. He seems to be somebody who had his embarrassment gene removed at birth. But his position was always untenable. It is completely untenable now. And if the Prime Minister had any sense of what the right thing to do would be, he'd replace him quietly in about 6 weeks' time.
Well, you'd think so, but yeah, you're right. Rudd's now just a walking punchline.
Exactly.
The vision, as we all said, has gone viral. But let's talk more broadly about this meeting. It was a long time coming. Finally, Anthony Albanese sat down with the President. The President actually praised the AUKUS Pact. Have a listen.
It was made a while ago, and nobody did anything about it, and it was going too slowly. We do actually have a lot of submarines. We have the best submarines in the world, anywhere in the world, and we're building a few more currently under construction. And now we're starting. We have it all set. With Anthony, we've worked on this long and hard, and we're starting that process right now. And I think it's really moving along very rapidly, very well.
Michael, so by all accounts, the AUKUS agreement is safe. What do you make of this meeting? Do you think that Anthony Albanese would be breathing a sigh of relief?
There is absolutely no doubt at all, Danica, he is breathing a sigh of relief. He's probably had half a dozen beers back in his hotel room thinking, thank God for that. It could have gone in any direction. But clearly Trump was in the mood, and in discussions with his advisors, they've worked out, hey, listen, how do we handle this guy, this meeting? Well, Australia are one of our closest, more reliable, more long-standing allies going back over 100 years. I mean, MacArthur had his base here in Australia, during the war. I mean, George Bush Sr. had a close relationship with Australia and Australian Prime Minister Bob Hawke. His son had a close relationship when he was president with John Howard, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we are as close, despite the rat bag left in Australia that don't want us to be allies with America. This was an acknowledgement of Australia being a true ally of the United States for more than 100 years, and that's what happened today. And it's good for Australia that he treated our country with the respect it deserves. And quite frankly, Albanese said the same things about America. So, a good day for Australia, apart from, the elephant in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. Apart from the elephant in the room, Nick, realistically, Australia got some assurances from the US.
The reassurance over AUKUS is a big relief that you now have a president who endorses it, because I don't think when Joe Biden signed it, he knew what he was signing, quite honestly. If you remember that press conference, he couldn't even remember Prime Minister Morrison's name. He called him that fellow down under or something. Yeah. So clearly now we have a president who's engaged in foreign policy. It was Trump, of course, who changed the American foreign policy towards China in his first term, realising that they are an enormous threat and we shouldn't be naive in our dealings with China. So that the fact that he has now grasped this and he is right behind the idea of sending us submarines, that's terrific. So the same thing goes for the rare earth deal too. Again, that's a very important strategic move to push China out of the picture, to stop them controlling absolutely everything in the world. And I think what we should do is abandon this things made in Australia policy that Albanese has and recognise that it's important that things are made in the West with our Western allies. And if we can contribute to that, be part of that logistics chain, we'll be doing a lot for our own security.
Look, absolutely. And look, let's talk more broadly about China, because a Chinese fighter plane has released flares very close to a Royal Australian Air Force plane carrying out surveillance in international airspace over the South China Sea. Defence Minister Richard Marles had this characteristically weak response.
On 2 occasions, it released flares very close to the P8, and it's really the proximity at which the flares were released, which has given us cause to deem this unsafe and unprofessional. We have made representations to the Chinese embassy here in Canberra, and indeed our embassy has also made representations in Beijing.
Yeah, Michael, another nothing to see, all above board response from Labor. And yet, Anthony Albanese has just been and gone to China. All that panda diplomacy has fallen on deaf ears.
Yeah, look, it'd be interesting to hear what the Chinese government's response is to the letting off of these flares in our inquiries. The Australian government attitude to China is very obsequious. We are a small nation with big trade. We are inferior militarily in every other way, and that's the way Albanese treats the relationship with China. We are subservient. We can't challenge them. We can't take them on. We're fearful of, a trade embargo, which is what happened a few years ago when the then government tried to stand up to China. So he's just decided weakness is the best course of action, and you see it in everything the Australian government does with China, which is very dangerous, of course. It emboldens China in the South Pacific. And that's why our treaty with the New Guinea is an important one. But, quite frankly, you have to stand up to China from time to time. You just can't, bury your head, which is what the Australian government does, and let China walk all over us. Because I think on too many occasions that seems to happen, and we never get a sufficient response from China as to why they're doing what they're doing off the Australian coast.
No, exactly. And I mean, what are they waiting for? All this, soft diplomacy, and then a flare hits one of our military jets and blows the thing up. I mean, what are they waiting for, Nick? And also, I wonder about the timing of this, because China would have known, obviously, that Anthony Albanese was going to the US for this meeting. Do you think there's anything in that?
Well, if the Chinese did do it to time with that meeting, then they've done us a favour, because it was a clear reminder for Anthony Albanese, who seems to have trouble realising this, whose side we are on in this dispute. So he's there signing a strategic deal, he's there signing a trade deal, both to deal with the China threat. He's got this reminder of the China threat the day before. Surely he's got to stop this pretense that Australia is somehow in the middle, that we're friends with everybody, that China is a benign power that has our best interests at heart. It's ludicrous. And, while we're at it, we should remind Jacinta Allen of that after she's just been to China to try and get money out of them for this, that and the other. She shouldn't be anywhere near China right now. She should be barred from going to China.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, clearly, but they're all cozying up to China at the moment. Now, look, former Nationals leader Michael McCormack has attempted to hose down suggestions that MPs could quit the party or defect to One Nation, of course, amid the reports that Barnaby Joyce is in high-level talks with Pauline Hanson following his decision to quit the Nationals. Michael, look, the Nats, they're downplaying this, even David Littleproud saying, everything's all above board. But, I mean, realistically, how do you see this playing out? There's so many issues at play and it all stems around energy policy.
Well, it partly does, partly personality issues and the way Joyce was treated before the election, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of personal issues that Barnaby Joyce has with the National Party. I would think in the next month or so the energy policy issue will be resolved. And what I'd really like to see is Barnaby make a decision on his future sooner rather than later. I mean, if he's staying with the National Party, he should say so. If he's leaving the National Party, equally he should say so. I mean, you can't let this caravan keep circling, day after day, week after week, month after month. It's destructive to the National Party. It's not really helping Barnaby because people think he's a wrecker. And obviously doesn't help the coalition. So the sooner he makes the decision, I think, the better, so we can get on with policy development. And you can see that's what Susan Lee's doing on a daily basis. She gave a great speech to the CIS yesterday about the importance of lowering personal income taxes. So she's starting to build a narrative for the next election. And these distractions are not helping. And as James Patterson said, it's time to bring this sort of national apology to fracas to an end so people can concentrate on the next election, I think, Danica.
Well, look, absolutely. And I mean, the problem is that the coalition are still talking about themselves as opposed to actually putting some policy ideas on the table. And that's half the battle right now. But I mean, is Michael right, Nick, that the sooner Barnaby comes out and says, yep, this is what I'm doing, everyone can move on?
Yeah, of course he is. When this story broke at the weekend, or was it on Friday, Barnaby should have either just denied it completely, said he had no intention of leaving the Nationals and joining One Nation while he's in Parliament, or he should just get on and do it, leave the party room and go and join One Nation if that's what he's inclined to do. I don't think that'd be a sensible thing right now. But I do think it's a reminder of the importance of the coalition getting its act together, getting a firm position on immigration, a firm position on energy policy that the party can live with, both sides of the party can live with, even if neither side is happy. Because if they don't fail to do that, then what we see with Barnaby is just a foretaste of what's to come. You will see a complete realignment of the centre-right, which is not a good option. It's a much better option that the coalition goes in a united position to fight the next election. Yeah,
couldn't agree more. Give voters a clear and actual stark choice. Now, look, the Queensland government has signed a pseudo-voice pact with 17 Indigenous-run councils, granting them direct access to the state cabinet to advise them on issues like housing and water access. Meanwhile, the state's 60 other councils will be forced to continue dealing with layers of bureaucracy to meet with government figures. Michael, I can't help but wonder if this is some sort of a voice by stealth.
Well, look, I don't agree with it. We're one nation where you can't have a treaty. A nation can't have a treaty with itself. That implies there are two nations that can't get on and need special privileges to deal with each other. It's very destructive. It's divisive. It's based on race, and it's not helpful to the nation. So to acknowledge, I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of Aboriginal advisory bodies already. The Council of Peaks. I mean, there's hundreds of them. I don't think the Indigenous community's capacity to talk to state and federal governments is in any way been inhibited in recent years. I can't think of any major examples of where these voices haven't been heard directly with government, as they should be, as every group making representations to governments and government bodies should be heard, and they have been heard. But I think to grant special privileges to one group over another is wrong, and I regret that this is being done. We've got this problem now in Victoria with the voice by stealth coming to the Victorian Parliament, which will divide Victorians by race forever if it gets passed by the upper house. So no, I don't agree with these types of proposals, and I wish the government would rethink it up there.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. We're almost out of time, Nick, but your thoughts?
Well, rather than find these workarounds to bypass bureaucracy, why not slim down the bureaucracy in the first place and then make it fair for everybody? It's ludicrous that you should do this for one particular group rather than another, and I'm surprised the Queensland government is going anywhere near there. Yeah,
well, 60% of us said no to being divided by the colour of our skin, so we can't keep having this. Nick Cade and Michael Kroger, good to see you both. Thanks so much for joining me on the show. Appreciate it.